Hi, I'm Melody Parlett, Managing Director at Enable Ministry Partners. Enable's been helping churches use technology to support their ministry for about 20 years. It's our passion and our purpose and what we love to do. Also with us on today's seminar is Travis Phipps, Director of Technology at Enable. Travis oversees Enable's technology strategy and direction for all of our churches and other clients. He's one of the leading experts in church IT today, and I'm really glad to have him here to share some knowledge with us. Today, we're looking forward to demoing some of our favorite tools that increase collaboration and productivity with your ministry staff, especially using the free tools in Office 365. Most people start their knowledge of Office 365 with email and calendars and using the Outlook app. Most of you guys are familiar with Outlook. But Office 365 goes far beyond email. Today, we want to show you some of the tools that can help your staff communicate and collaborate more efficiently, especially in this time where more and more people are working from home or working remotely. So Office 365 has a free license for registered 501c3 organizations. Their E1 license and a few others are free to those 501c3s, and several others are heavily discounted. Microsoft has been very generous with the nonprofit community in getting these tools in their hands so that they can be doing good. Like most organizations, Microsoft has some requirements around qualifying to receive those nonprofit licenses, including a non-discrimination clause so that people who qualify for this cannot discriminate in their practices in hiring. However, Microsoft recognizes that religious organizations do have discriminatory hiring practices for obvious reasons, and they specifically exempt religious organizations from that non-discrimination clause. They understand that that's something that religious organizations and faith communities have to have in place, and they are more than willing to make that exception here for churches. So let me pull up and show you portal.office.com. This is the front door website into Office 365. And we just wanted to give you a look at what all is included in Office 365. There are 20 or 30 tools on this page that you can see here, and nearly all of them are free for nonprofits with those E1 licenses. So today we're going to talk through some common scenarios that we are hearing from our church clients, and we'll take you through a live demo to show you how Office 365 free tools can help you solve some of these current challenges. So let's get started. Okay, scenario number one. I am drowning in email. I am drowning in work text messages to my personal cell phone. And we struggle to communicate well between staff members and different ministries and volunteers. Help.
Wow,
Travis?
how many times have we heard that one, right? Melody, thanks so much for the great introduction to what we're going to be talking about today. So, as Melody said, my name is Travis, and I guess I have been elected here to help maybe solve or answer some of these scenarios today. So it's my pleasure to be joining you. Thanks for tuning in. So, email. We all know what email is. We all love or love to hate email. And maybe especially recently with more and more work from home scenarios taking place, we've had even more of it. So we have heard from many churches for many years, but especially recently, email is overwhelming. There's just a ton of it. It is the de facto way to communicate in a work environment. But there are some newer, more modern tools that are available, and Microsoft is really kind of on a cutting edge, a leading edge with kind of leading the way with some of those tool sets. So today, to answer this scenario, and really to answer all of our scenarios, we're going to work out of a platform called Microsoft Teams. And Microsoft Teams is one of those applications that Melody mentioned earlier that is available as a part of the free licensing for a 501c3 nonprofit from Microsoft. So Teams is really a communication hub, but it's even more than that. Microsoft really kind of describes it as the place to get work done. And so the idea behind Teams is it's combining several of these Office 365 tools into one workspace where you can communicate differently, you can collaborate with file sharing and even work together at the same time on files. And the great part is all of these tools are powered by the Microsoft Cloud, which means that they are available everywhere. So all of these tool sets are available regardless of where you're at in the world. As long as you have an internet connection, you can access and use these tools for communication, for collaboration, for file storage, and all those things. So that's my long-winded intro to get back to answering this scenario. Email. We're drowning in email. And oh, by the way, we keep using our personal cell phones to do all these text messages and group texts, and it's really getting out of hand, and it's hard to know what conversation I'm in the middle of when I jump back into that group text. So I'm going to flip over to a tab here where I've already opened up Microsoft Teams, and I'm going to show you a little bit about this platform and how it works. So Microsoft Teams, as I mentioned, is designed around communication and collaboration. So the first thing you'll notice whenever I jump into the platform is along the left-hand side, I've got a few different options, a few different apps inside of the Teams platform. And the focal point where we're going to spend a lot of our time today is around the Teams app inside of the Microsoft Teams platform. Yeah, that can get a little confusing. But the way this is organized and the way this is broken down, you'll see I have my teams listed here. And so I've got about 4 different teams that are open for me right here. These are different teams that I'm a part of, that I have access to, that I can participate in or work within. And inside of those teams, they're then further broken down into different topical channels. And so you'll see, we're going to use today the Sharing Church. So the Sharing Church is going to be the church that I work for and that Melody works for. So as we go through our demos today, just keep in mind our church is the Sharing Church. And then we're going to talk about the different ministry groups and some of the things that we do around organizing our conversations and our files. So specifically channels. Now, there are different ways to organize your data in Microsoft Teams. We typically start, if you're a smaller organization, by saying, you may only need 1 or 2 teams, and then you may be best to just organize that by channel inside of Teams. Maybe break that down by ministry or by department so that each ministry or each department has their own space to have conversations and to store files. But it's everyone that's a part of the team, meaning everyone that's on staff at the church, still has access to those areas, because the smaller your church staff is, the more likely you are to kind of cross-pollinate with each other. So you may be in the facilities department and you may help every single Sunday in the children's ministry, right? Something like that. The larger you are, the larger your church is, you may find it valuable to split these out into different teams instead of different channels, but that's kind of a churchy decision. You get to make what's specific and works best for your church. So within channels, the way you can think, so within channels, we have conversations, threaded conversations. Think of these like Facebook posts. So you can start a new conversation like Melody has done here, and then other individuals on your team can reply and make comments. Again, just like Facebook. So I can say, hey, this is great. Okay, so now I've replied in a thread to the conversation that Melody started. But maybe it's time to start talking about something else. Maybe I want to say, what is everybody doing this summer? Well, now that is a new thread or a new conversation, right? And so as people are replying, they're replying to the topic of whatever conversation thread they were a part of. So this already is helping with the group text idea where, well, it's just one giant wall of conversation and it's hard to know sometimes what thing you're replying to or you're commenting on. So having them organized into conversation threads makes that a lot easier. Let's see, let's keep talking about channels just for a minute. You'll notice that we have a few channels that are kind of open, that are open for everybody. We've got, oh, look at that. Melody has shown me what she's doing for the summer. You'll also notice that Melody has shown us, hey, look, we can have a little bit of fun inside of Teams, inside of our conversations. We can post animated images. We can even create memes if we want to. You can literally create your own meme. We can say enable is having fun today. And when I post that, hey, look, it's my customized meme. Now, I am starting that as a new conversation, right? Oops, maybe I didn't want to do that. Maybe I need to come edit that message or do something different with that message. I've got some options there depending on what permissions I've been given. So we can have fun inside of Teams while communicating and collaborating inside of Teams. That's the point. Now, let me point out this HR channel. So if you've paid attention, you've seen we have different channels, maybe based on the different ministries of the church. But you know what? HR files, HR conversations, those are not for everybody, right? And so what you have to know is that you can organize your team in a way that by default, anybody that's a part of your team has access to all the things in all the channels. But you can create private channels, and you'll notice my little lock icon here. So if I were to go here to my main sharing church team and just manage that for a second, you'll see that I have several owners. I have a few owners and I have members as well. So lots of people in my team. But if I head to the HR channel, you'll notice that I have the ability to manage that channel. And now I have a restricted set of people. Currently, I am the only one who has access to the HR channel. So even Melody, who is a part of my team and collaborating with me in the children's ministry area, doesn't have access to the HR channel. So I can keep information private when I need to, but by default, it's kind of available for everybody and really helps facilitate collaboration. All right, other functionality inside of Teams. So that's around the idea of collaborating with a group of people, communicating in conversations in threads. And the idea here is these are things that people can get to when they need to or when they want to, not when you necessarily interrupt them or need their attention. But then we also have chat capability. So chat is like instant message. So chat is similar to text messaging, except it's within the Teams ecosystem and within the Teams platform. So one of the things that Melody mentioned in the scenarios, I'm drowning in work text messages to my personal cell phone. Well, now what if you had a way to collaborate with your coworkers within the Teams platform and keep your cell phone number, your personal text messages for personal purposes? That's a really great thing. It's great for anyone to be able to kind of separate a little bit of your work and home life. In church ministry, oftentimes those lines get blurred for great reasons. But sometimes you really do need to be able to unplug or to disconnect and to be able to keep a separation between those worlds. So having the ability to direct chat or instant message with individuals is great. You can see I've got the ability to talk directly to Melody and she can respond directly to me. And look, we have a whole history of our conversations together right here in front of us that we can always refer back to. That's really awesome. And we even have the ability, if we wanted to create a group chat where we could add 2 or 3 other people to this conversation if we wanted to do that. So kind of mimicking that group text functionality that we were talking about. But again, it stays inside of the Teams platform. It keeps it all cataloged. It keeps the history together, and we can easily keep up with what's going on separately inside of Teams. And if you're really astute, you'll notice up here by my cursor, there's also a couple other options. I've got the option to place a call, an audio call, and I also have the option to place a video call. So I've got the ability to audio chat, or audio call, video call with other members inside of Teams as well. We're going to come back to that in a little while. I'm not going to demonstrate that just right now, but just know that that capability is there. And as long as I'm doing all of that inside of Teams, again, this is included in my free E1 license, no cost at all. Audio and video chat capability for free. So now let's talk just a little bit about meetings. So one of the things that we are doing, especially a lot more lately, seems to be we're doing online meetings, video meetings, Zoom calls or Teams calls, or all of the above. So That can be done inside of Teams as well. I mentioned that you can kind of do the ad hoc calling capability, but you also have the ability to head over to your calendar and to create meetings. So you've got the ability to come in here and to create a new meeting at any time, and you can add people that are required to attend. You can give your meeting a title, schedule when it's going to happen, and invite people to your meeting. Just like you would invite them maybe through Outlook to a meeting, send a meeting request, you can do that in Teams. And by scheduling it through Teams, then of course that makes it a Teams meeting. And so now, whenever the time comes to have your meeting, your prompt in your calendar would give you the ability to simply click the join button. So you'll notice I have this meeting here. I can click join and join right into that meeting and participate via audio or video or both. So all of that functionality is there. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take this moment to differentiate. We get asked a lot these days, hey, what about Zoom? It seems like everybody's using Zoom. And so why would I use Teams instead of Zoom? I think the right answer for most churches is you may find yourself using both. Where Zoom really shines is it is a purpose-built video meeting tool. That's all it's designed to do. So it definitely has some features and some capabilities that are better in that space, maybe than Teams or some other applications. Specifically, the real claim to fame that churches really enjoy about using Zoom, you get to see everybody at the same time. So there are some limitations to how many people you can see in a meeting inside of Teams at once. Currently, you're limited to 9 active video participants on your screen at once, whereas Zoom, it's 49 at a time. Now, Microsoft is committed to enhancing that and improving that, but as of today, that is a limitation. And there is certainly an argument to be made that when you're working with folks outside of your staff, people that are not used to using Teams or another platform, Zoom has kind of become ubiquitous in the sense that everybody seems to know how to use it these days. And so when you're engaging with your membership or you're engaging with lay leaders or volunteers, there may be some value in that. But when you're engaging only internally, when you're working only with internal staff, I would highly recommend you look at what Teams has to offer. Again, if you're doing most of your work and communication and collaboration inside of Teams already, well, then there's a great opportunity for you to use that for your video chat and video meetings as well. And it is very powerful, and it does work very well and has a ton of great functionality. All right. So one of the things, oh yeah.
Meetings in Teams as well. In fact, we're using it right now to record this session.
We are collaborating together through Teams to do this recording to then present to you all. So it is very, very powerful. In fact, we also use it to do webinars with up thousands of participants potentially. So there's a great functionality available through Teams, meetings and webinar functionality, again, included with your free E1 license. Now, one of the things I didn't mention earlier, we started in this scenario saying I'm drowning in email. Okay, well, you might have noticed that the style of Teams really has us working more informally maybe than what email tends to lend itself to. So normally when you're writing emails, they're a little more formally structured. There's a little more formality in the language that you use, and you kind of have to spell things out a little more. Teams is designed to be less formal. It's designed for quick conversations. It's designed for short statements and quick chat capability. That can be very advantageous and beneficial. And the more you do that kind of style of communication in Teams, the less you should find yourself using email. And so now email becomes a little more of an announcement type platform with more formality to it. And Teams becomes more of your day-to-day conversation communication. So we find that very valuable, and we have found church staff to really enjoy and adopt that mentality. Feels like I'm spending a lot of time here in scenario 1, but there's just so much to share. One thing that I didn't talk about, what about volunteers? So churches are working with volunteers all the time. They're always working with folks that are outside of their staff. And it's really important to be able to do that. Well, I mentioned earlier that anybody that you put into your team has access to everything in your team, unless you lock it in a private channel. Well, if you're working with volunteers, you probably don't want them having access to everything in your team. You may not even want them having access to everything in your specific ministry channel. So how do you deal with that? Well, first off, you have to know that Teams absolutely supports guest users. So you can invite people that do not have a church email address or church account to join a team with you. They do that with a free account from Microsoft. It's very simple to set up. Anybody that has ever created a Gmail account or a Microsoft Hotmail account or something is familiar with the idea of you create the free account and now you have it. That's all it takes to join a team. And creating a team could not be simpler. This is the other thing we love about this platform is it allows end users who have the authorization to do so to kind of self-manage this. They don't need to wait for their IT department or staff or technology expert to help them. Anybody that's given permission can come down here and just join or create a new team. And when I click on that, I can create team. I can say I'm going to build one from scratch. You know what? I do want this private. I don't want it just available to everybody. All right. And let's say that I'm going to create my children. Oops. It would help if I could type today. I'm going to create my children's ministry volunteer collaboration team for working with children's ministry volunteers. All right, that's a pretty common need, right? Maybe we're planning VBS or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and create that team. I'm going to wait just a minute. Hey, nice work. It's done. The team is done. Awesome. Well, then the first thing I need to do is I need to invite other people to join me on this team, right? So Melody's on staff here. So she's in the children's ministry department with me. So we're going to invite Melody. That makes sense. You'll notice as I typed her name, she just popped right up because since she's in my organization, I have an autocomplete, kind of like your email addresses. But let's say that I'm also going to invite Susie Bell and Susie Bell Dawson at gmail.com. Here's a hint. Susie Bell Dawson at gmail.com, as far as I know, is not really a real address. I'm using it for demonstration purposes, just FYI. But you'll notice, hey, look, I typed a full email address and it's going to give me the option to invite her as a guest. All right, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to say add, and you'll obviously see that I could keep inviting people over and over and over again, right? Okay, so I'm going to hit close here. And now I'm just going to show you really quickly. If I pop up here into manage team, oh, there's my members and my guests that I invited, right? And if Susie Bell Dawson was a real person with that email address, she would have gotten an email that invited her to come join my team. She clicks a link and she's in. That really is all there is to it. And so now we've got a space that we can work with and collaborate with and talk with our children's ministry staff and volunteers. But it's really separate from the rest of the space that we do our internal discussions and collaboration. And that becomes really important in a minute when we start talking about files, because yes, you care about the conversations you have and who has access to view them, but you probably care even more about the files you have and the data that's inside of them and who has access to those. So we'll get to that here in a second. Melody, I think I've answered the question about, hey, how can we get rid of some email and how can we deal with these text message things? What do you think, and what other scenarios do we have?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that you've showed a whole bunch of ways to keep things here together. And the thing that I've really enjoyed about using Teams is that with the option to do instant message, you're removing those personal cell phone number conversations. It's keeping everything in a more business space so you can kind of keep your work and your personal life separate. I think we're ready to move on. So let's talk about everyone's next favorite headache. I need to know how to use documents, Words, Excel, PDF, and that kind of thing to collaborate with my staff and volunteers, but I don't know the most efficient way to do this. So this is that scenario where you're sharing attachments with files back and forth and trying to keep track of which one's the most updated and that kind of thing. Can you help us out with that, Travis?
I can, and it will not surprise you to hear me say I'm going to use Microsoft Teams to do that as well. So Microsoft Teams, as we mentioned earlier, is a place to get work done. We've talked about the communication aspects of it, but it's also about collaboration, working with files. So how do we do that? Well, I- Office 365 has several different places that you can store files and things that you can do with files. And if we head back here to our Office portal, we can see some of those listed. You might have heard of OneDrive right here. You might have heard of SharePoint, which is right here. Sorry, I'm having a hard time keeping up with myself, finding where things go. And you may or may not have heard of Teams, which we've started talking about today. Well, guess what? Teams really brings all of this together in one place. So now instead of having to keep up with, oh, that's in OneDrive, that's in SharePoint, that's in Teams, the Teams platform allows me to put all my files together in one place. So the first thing I want to hit on is there are different kinds of files. There are files that really only you personally need to care about or use. They're the things that you're using in your day-to-day work, and they're just kind of an interim work product, if you will. And then there's lots and lots of files when you're on church staff that really are for your department or for the whole staff as a complete team, right? And so here in the Files app of Teams, we'll see that things are broken down just a little bit. We've got OneDrive, and then we have Microsoft Teams. So let's talk a little bit about that separation of file types. We refer to them as me files and we files. So a me file is really just for me. Well, that goes in my OneDrive. It's for one person. Now, OneDrive does have great collaboration and sharing capabilities and features, but by default, when I put something in my OneDrive, it's for me. And you'll notice that my sharing settings are all private. And sorry, we had a little bit of echo there that threw me off just for a second. So OneDrive, me files. By default, whatever I put here, only I can see it. Here's why this really matters. By default, whatever I put here is only available to me and is only available as long as I'm on staff. So if I am the children's ministry director and I'm putting all the children's ministry departmental files in my OneDrive and I transition to another church or another role and my OneDrive is deleted whenever I leave, well, then all of those files are deleted. And that's a really risky thing. We see churches deal with this a lot when staff leave and the files weren't stored in a place that everybody had access to. So Teams provides Teams provides a solution for that. So I can head back over to my Teams here, and you'll remember as the children's ministry director, of course, I'm going to use the children's ministry channel inside of Teams. Well, guess what? Right here, I have a files tab inside that channel. And if I head to that files tab, here are the files that belong to the children's ministry department. So these are not things just for me. These are things that we're collaborating on. It's for everybody on our team to have access to. And this is where I can find them. And you'll see that I have the ability to create new files. I've got the ability to upload files. So you can add existing files into this space. You can create new things here. But here's where the magic really happens is now that I've got these files in a place that we can share. Oh, by the way, remember we talked about everything in Teams is in the cloud and always available. So these files are not locked on premises at my church campus. They're not going to require me to drive to the office to get to. I can access these from any computer that has internet access. Just a reminder. So let's say that Melody and I want to work on this file together. We're both working on grade promotions. We're kind of entering in that summer season. We're trying to figure out what's going to happen and when and who and all of that. So I can just click on this Excel document, and inside of Teams, it opens up inside of Excel, right? And so it's an Excel spreadsheet, and I can type new names. I can say John Doe, and oh, look, oh, I've got this purple box. Oh, hey, Melody's here too. So while I'm working on this file and I'm doing some things, Melody is apparently also making some changes and entering things. Well, this is great. So now we can talk and collaborate while we're actively working on the same file and seeing where each other are making changes all at the same time. That's really powerful and that's really cool. I do have the ability, if I don't like this kind of limited Excel experience inside of Teams, inside of my web browser, I can click open into the desktop app. And when I open in my desktop app, you'll see that Excel opens on my desktop. And what I've got is that same file, still with Melody working with me, still her making some changes and I can make changes. But now I've got the full blown version of Excel with all the bells and whistles that I'm used to and all the things that I love. All right, so I'm going to close that now. You know what? Before I do that, I'm just going to show you real quick. If I click up here, I also have version history. So if Melody makes changes to my file that I don't like, I can go back and I can revert the file. Just, wanted to throw that out there. Not that Melody would ever do anything incorrectly or mess up my file. She certainly wouldn't do it on purpose. But hey, we all make mistakes sometimes, right? All right, let's see. What else do we want to talk about with files? Oh, sync. So we always get asked, people are like, hey, it's great to have my files in the cloud, but it's kind of clunky to work on my files inside of Teams. Is there a better way? Like, can I just do it in File Explorer? Or can I do it in Finder? Because I'm a Mac user. Yes, you can absolutely do that. See that sync button? You click that button and you can make these. I'm going to say, yes, I want to allow that. I'm going to allow that to be open. And I'm just going to show you really quickly. If I open up File Explorer here, hey, look, there's my Sharing Church Children's Ministry files. All those same files that were in the cloud, I can access in File Explorer. So I don't have to use Teams to still work in my files that are stored in Teams if I don't want to. So that's just an FYI. And yes, that works on Mac OS just like it does on Windows.
Travis, this is one of my favorite questions that I got in a training session recently. I had a church staff person ask me, I had a secret place where I kept all my files just in case I didn't like this new system, but now that I'm comfortable with using Teams and OneDrive, is there an easy way to move my files?
There are many easy ways to move your files. And yes, we do hear that sometimes. People are a little nervous about the new technology. So first off, the simplest way would be to just head inside of Teams and use the upload feature. And you can upload individual files or entire folders full of files right here inside of Teams. If that's not comfortable for you, if you have a lot of files, remember I showed you that sync capability. Well, you could just come inside of File Explorer and you can copy and paste or cut and paste your files from wherever you've hidden them away straight into this space. I'll just show you by simply creating maybe a new text document here. Once I create it, if you were really watching, you might have seen a little synchronize icon pop up here. But now if I head back to Teams, now I do need to refresh. So I'm going to click away and come back to my Files tab. But when I do that, notice here's my new document. So that synchronization is two-way and always available as long as you're connected to the internet.
That's great. I think that's super important because there's lots of people who don't sit at their desk, especially right now, to get to their files. So to know that it's super easy, you can do it from an airport or wherever, that's so handy.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's do another scenario. Special projects and events have so many moving parts to keep track of. How can I organize to-dos and clearly communicate responsibilities and deadlines for our team?
I love this one. This is one that I am seeing church staff adopt so well because it is so simple and yet solves such a big problem. So through Office 365, there is a tool called Planner. Planner is a limited capability project management tool. A simple project management tool is probably the best way to say it. So Planner allows you to, as it says, create plans, organize and assign tasks, share files, and get progress updates. Well, that's awesome. And inside of Teams, inside of your channel, you can create your own planners or your own plans inside of Planner, I guess is the better way to say that. Now, this is where I would create one, but I'm going to go back to one that we've already created for VBS 2020. So this is one that actually Melody and I have worked on and been building out. Melody's done a lot of great work here kind of building this out. So what you see inside of a plan is you start out with buckets. So each one of these columns is called a bucket, and you can create new ones, name them whatever you want to. And you'll notice underneath each bucket, you can add new tasks. So you can create whatever task you want to. You can set a due date for that task, and you can assign it to an individual. So if you look at some of these, we'll see that, okay, these particular bucket, or these particular tasks have due dates that are in the past. That's why they're red, so that they're kind of visible, like, hey, you're behind, you should catch up. You'll notice that they've been tagged with some specific tags to kind of help with organization and understanding of what's involved for this task or who it touches. And then you'll see a couple of tasks here where they've been assigned. So this particular task has been assigned to Ellie and to Travis, to myself. And oh, by the way, I can just drag my tasks around into different buckets. I can reorganize however I see fit. It's very, very simple and fast to just put stuff in order. And it's great because it's almost like having sticky notes on a whiteboard that you just move around. Well, that's what this is. But it gives you the option to assign to people. They get email notifications, they get reminders about the due dates. You can even see some basics about the progress of how things are going and how behind you are. It really is just awesome, but also so very simple. So Planner, also available for free with that E1 license and integrates right inside of your Teams.
That's great. We love using this tool for planning events and one-off things, but even for ongoing, process development or long-term strategy and things. So if you could be planning out ongoing tasks as well as those succinct individual projects or events. It's
Absolutely.
really a helpful tool.
Absolutely.
Okay, let me move on to another one. I think we have time for one more here in our session today. Our team hasn't been able to use our phone system while working from home. We need a mobile solution that lets us still use our office phone numbers. Travis, what do you got?
Well, surprise, surprise, I've got Teams. So this one surprises many people. So we've talked about Teams with all the things it can do with communication and collaboration. Well, remember, it's a communications tool first. Well, voice communication, we talked earlier about the ability to do calls and video chats inside of Teams. We talked about meetings inside of Teams, but you can even make Teams your actual phone system. So you'll notice I've got a calls app right here inside of Teams. And when I head to the calls app, I have a dial pad. I've got some contacts, right? So I've got speed dials right here for me, but I also have the ability to just dial a phone number. Now, this is not functionality that is free. I want to be really clear about that. If you want Teams to be your phone system, you do have to pay for that. Now, it is available at discounted pricing for nonprofits. It's very reasonable for what it provides, but I want to be clear, this one's not free. Adding this capability does have a cost associated with it. So the great thing about this is, again, we talked about Teams being based in the Microsoft cloud, which means it's available wherever you have an internet connection, which then means if Teams is your phone system, it's available wherever you have an internet connection. And we haven't talked yet, but one of the great things about Teams is the mobile app experience. So there is a native Microsoft Teams mobile app for Apple devices, for iOS, for Android devices. It works, as I mentioned earlier, on Mac OS, just like it does on Windows. So it really is a cross-platform, doesn't really matter what device you're using type tool. And it will work with physical desk phones as well. Now, you do have to really have a special phone that's designed to work with Teams, but they really cost about the same as a traditional business desk phone would. It's just that these are built to work with Teams and within the Teams platform and Teams ecosystem, honestly, like most traditional phone systems have been for a very long time anyway. So we have a lot of church staff that have transitioned to using Teams as their phone system, and most have found it most useful to just use their cell phone. If we were in a room together, I would ask you to raise your hand if most of your staff have said, yeah, I just use my cell phone for, that's it. I don't need a desk phone. Well, the great thing about Teams is that you can give them that experience of just using their cell phone, but they can do it with their church phone number. So now when they are calling people within your church and they are receiving calls either from internal staff or people outside within the church community, they're using their church phone number instead of their personal phone number. And that's incredibly beneficial for all sorts of security and privacy reasons and all the things that we can imagine. So I did want to just demonstrate really quickly how simple this is. Inside of the Teams application here on my desk, I'm just going to call Melody. So I'm going to type in Melody's phone number because I happen to know it, and I'm going to hit call. And so what we see here is we are placing a phone call. You can hear it ringing. And there's Melody. And as far as we know, that audio is coming through. So you're hearing her just like I am. So Melody, you just got this call on your phone. Awesome. So as far as Melody's concerned, I just called her phone. She doesn't really necessarily know that I'm using Teams to place that call. It just is our phone system. And so I know that, but whoever you're calling doesn't have to know that. They don't have to have Teams. It's just a phone. So it's a really, really powerful feature. And the ability to then always have it with you wherever you are on whatever device you're using is so incredibly powerful. Well, Melody, I'm going to hang up our call here and let you join us back in the meeting. How about that? While Melody jumps back into our meeting, I will just point out that experience that you just saw on my screen, kind of what it looked like, is similar to what you would see if I had done a basic Teams call. So if I had just done an audio call inside of Teams, it really looks the same. It just wouldn't have shown a phone number. It would have just shown her name because I was just calling her. And then, of course, if we added video, then, of course, we would see each other's video and that kind of thing as well.
Absolutely. Well, that's been a ton of information this morning in the time that we had. And so I just want to say thanks, Travis, for showing us all of these different tools that can help solve some of the problems that church staff are facing right now as they're looking to become more mobile and make life a little easier to collaborate and communicate. I'll just wrap us up here. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And I'll just remind you that all of the tools that we've shown here today, except for the phone system, are free, available at no cost for nonprofits. There is a ton more that we didn't get to cover in this session today that we'd love to share with you. There's a ton more that Office 365 can do for you and your church staff. Enable has actually done a webinar series on Office 365 and the tools that it provides. There's a little deeper dive into a lot of the features. You can learn tricks about how to help you schedule meetings faster and streamline your expense reports and lots more. If you're interested in checking out more of our content on Office 365, you can head over to our website, enableministry.com/Office365, and that'll take you to all of our Office content and put that available at your fingertips. Of course, that's at no cost for you guys. If you do have questions or you'd like to learn more, we'd really love to connect with you. We will be available during each one of the speed networking windows throughout this conference. You can also reach out to us at info@enable.email or from our website, enableministry.com. Thanks again for your time today. We hope this has been really helpful for you. If we can help your church move forward with any of these tools or talking about other tech problems, don't hesitate to reach out and give us a call. Thanks again. Bye.